She gave her daughter a car, he snapped. It was a warm Saturday afternoon, and Lynette Carver had planned a simple birthday lunch for her daughter Brielle, who had just turned 28. There were sandwiches, sweet tea, and a store-bought cake with pink frosting. A few close friends gathered in the backyard, chatting under a big umbrella, while the sun sat heavy in the Georgia sky. Then came the surprise. Lynette smiled as she handed Brielle a small box with a car key inside. Confused, Brielle looked up. "Mom?" she asked softly. Lynette just nodded and motioned toward the driveway. Everyone followed. Sitting in the driveway, shining in the sunlight, was a brand new silver Toyota Corolla with a red bow on the hood. One of the neighbors pulled out a phone and started filming as Brielle covered her mouth and gasped. The small group clapped and laughed. Brielle looked stunned, her eyes wide with disbelief and gratitude. Keons stood on the front porch, leaning against the railing, arms crossed. He didn't smile. He didn't clap. After a few seconds, the laughter died down when Keons spoke. Of course it's for her," he said loud enough for everyone to hear. The smiles dropped. The camera stopped filming. Everyone looked his way. Lynette stepped forward, a little confused. "Keon, it's her birthday. It's always something for Brielle," he said, stepping off the porch. His voice shook, not with sadness, but with anger. "She gets the car. She got the help with college, the trips, the attention. I've been your son too, but you treat me like I'm extra, like I'm just there." Brielle stood frozen, clutching the keys. She didn't know where to look. Lynette's face turned pale. "That's not fair, Keon. This isn't about—" "You think this is just about a car?" he snapped. "It's the message that I don't count. You gave her a car in front of people. That's not love. That's public humiliation." He looked around at the guests, then back at his mother. "I hope it was worth it." And then he walked away. Not slowly, not loudly, just walked, shaking his head, hands stuffed in his pockets. Nobody spoke. The party was over. Lynette didn't cry, but she looked like she wanted to. Her hands trembled. Brielle stood still, clutching the keys like they weighed 100 pounds. The car sat in the driveway, quiet and gleaming. A gift meant to bring joy now sat like a crack between them all. Lynette raised Keon and Brielle alone after their father, Malik, walked out when Keon was just 3 years old. He had said he was going to the store and never came back. At first, Lynette waited. Then she begged. Then she stopped asking. She worked 2 jobs and kept moving forward because there was no other choice. Brielle was 5 then. She saw more than Lynette wanted her to. She started helping early, packing lunches, tying Keon's shoes, sitting beside him at night when he had bad dreams. She was calm, dependable, and easy to praise. Keon was softer, quieter. He had a habit of staring too long at things. He cried easily, but never loudly. He didn't shout or act out. He just shrank into silence when he was hurt. Lynette, juggling bills and long shifts, missed a lot of his silences. As they grew older, Brielle became the achiever. Honor roll, music recital, school clubs. Keon stayed in the background, never failing, but never shining either. Teachers called Brielle gifted. They said Keon seemed tired. When Lynette was diagnosed with breast cancer, Brielle was already out of college and working nearby. Without being asked, she moved back home. She drove Lynette to chemo appointments, sat beside her in hospital room, kept track of meds, bills and groceries. She never made a big deal of it. She just stayed. Keon had already moved out by then. He drifted from city to city, job to job. Sometimes he worked construction, sometimes warehouses. He'd call once every few months, usually when he needed money. "Just until Friday," he'd say. "Just this one time." Sometimes Lynette sent it, sometimes she didn't. The calls always ended the same, short and distant. She didn't know how to reach him. When she asked about his life, he gave short answers. When she offered help, he got defensive. When she pushed harder, he pulled away completely. To her, he seemed like someone who didn't want to be seen. To him, she seemed like someone who only saw what she wanted. So when Lynette gave Brielle the car, it wasn't meant to be a prize. It was supposed to be a thank you, a way of saying, "I see what you've done for me." She didn't imagine Keon would see it as anything else, but he did, and maybe she should have known he would. At 25, Keon was working full-time construction, barely scraping by. His rent was overdue again. His truck kept breaking down. He hadn't had health insurance in years. Every time he drove past a nice car, he muttered under his breath. Every time he saw someone get help, A little part of him burned. He didn't say it out loud, but he'd always felt like his mother saw him as a mess to clean up, not a person to love. And when she handed Brielle those car keys with a smile, it was like all the quiet pain from childhood slammed into him at once. He remembered the time in middle school when he got punched at the bus stop and came home bleeding. Lynette had been too tired that day to talk much. "Did you fight back?" she asked. He said no. She nodded, gave him an ice pack, and went back to cooking. That was it. He remembered staying up all night in high school, writing a short story he was proud of. When he showed her, she skimmed it and said, "That's nice, baby," and then asked if Brielle had come home yet. He remembered his first job at a tire shop. He called her, excited. She answered and said, "Can I call you back? Brielle's here and I'm helping her with something." It wasn't the big things. It was the thousand small times he'd needed her to notice something about him, and she didn't. Now, years later, Lynette sat alone in her living room, the day after the ruined birthday lunch. She sipped cold coffee and stared at nothing. The house was quiet. Brielle had gone back to her apartment. Keon hadn't called. She hated how the gift had landed. She just wanted to say thank you to the daughter who showed up when she couldn't stand on her own. She didn't mean to hurt her son, but maybe, just maybe, she had long before the car. Upstairs, in a dusty old box, were some VHS tapes from when the kids were young. Lynette dug one out and put it in the old player. The screen flickered, and there they were. Brielle dancing in a princess dress, Keon trailing behind her, holding a toy car, barely in frame. She watched. Over and over, she saw him like that, in the background, close, but not seen. She covered her mouth. Tears came, slow and quiet. A few miles away, Keon sat on the edge of his bed, staring at his cracked phone screen. He didn't want to talk to her, but he also didn't want this silence. He felt raw, and underneath the anger, something colder. The fear that maybe he really didn't matter as much as Brielle did, but he couldn't say that out loud. Not yet. Instead, he grabbed his boots and headed to work, letting the noise of drills and hammers drown the ache in his chest. And back in her quiet living room, Lynette held the remote tightly, not ready to stop watching the past play over again. Keon returns to Lynette's house, unannounced, furious. He demands an explanation the moment she opens the door. "Why did you give her a car and not even think to tell me?" Lynette, startled by the look in his eyes, steps back. "Keon, this isn't the time. Come in. Sit down." He doesn't move. "No, I'm not here for small talk. I want to know. Just say it. You've always loved her more." Lynette closes the door behind him and walks into the living room. "That's not true," she says, but her voice is already shaking. "This isn't about love." Keon follows her in, jaw clenched. "Then what is it? She gets a brand new car, and I get silence. You didn't even call me to tell me. I had to see it like I'm some outsider." "I didn't mean for it to feel that way," she says, her back to him now. "It was just a way to thank her, that's all." "For what?" "For being perfect, for staying," she says quickly, "for taking care of me when I had nothing, when I could barely stand. She put her whole life on hold." "And I didn't?" Keon's voice rises. "You think I didn't care? I called? I sent what I could." "You called when you needed something," Lynette snaps. "You never stayed." There's a pause, a heavy one. Keon stares at her. "So being born first makes her your heir?" Lynette turns around, furious now. "What are you even talking about?" "You gave her the car," he says, stepping closer. "She probably gets the house next, right? All of it. The money, the things. I get memories and guilt. That's it." Lynette slaps her hand on the table so hard it echoes through the house. "You're my son, not my burden." The words hang in the air like smoke. Keon's mouth twitches. He doesn't blink. "That's what I've always been to you, huh?" "No," she says, but it's already too late. Her voice is quieter now, scared of where this is going. "I didn't mean that." "But you said it." Keon takes a breath, his hands balled into fists. "If you die tomorrow, I swear, I'll contest every dime. I'll fight Brielle for all of it." They stare at each other, mother and son, two people who once shared everything now standing oceans apart in the same room. From the stairs, a quiet sound breaks the silence. Brielle is there, halfway down, frozen. She's heard it all. Keon turns and walks out without another word. The door slams behind him, but it doesn't shake the house as much as his words just did. Lynette sinks into the couch, her hand still resting on the table. Upstairs, Brielle steps back into the shadows, unsure whether to comfort her mother or leave her alone. No one speaks. Again. Keon calls a lawyer friend, asking how wills work. He doesn't try to hide the reason, He lays it out plain. If a parent gives everything to one kid and not the other, can that be challenged? The friend, a tired-sounding man named Wesley, sighs on the other end. It depends on how the will was written, on whether you can prove something unfair or illegal. Emotion doesn't count, Keon. Hurt feelings won't win in court. Keon nods, even though Wesley can't see him. But if she's not thinking clearly, if she's being influenced, you'd need proof, Wesley says. Paper trail? History? Something more than she gave my sister a car. Keon hangs up and starts looking. Bills, emails, any sign of where the money might be going. He even checks the mailbox at Lynette's house when she's not home, hoping to find something with a lawyer's name on it. He's not proud of it, but he's tired of being kept in the dark. Meanwhile, Brielle shows up one morning with coffee and quiet eyes. Lynette lets her in, already knowing what's coming. Keon's angry, Brielle says as they sit on the porch. He won't let this go. I know, Lynette says, wrapping her sweater tighter around her. Mum, can you just rewrite the will? Make it even, 50-50. It's not about the car anymore. Lynette shakes her head. I have my reasons. He thinks you're planning to give him nothing. I'm not, Lynette says, her voice sharp but shaky. But I'm not going to split it just to keep him from yelling. Brielle looks down. This isn't about yelling. This is about how he feels. Lynette looks out toward the street, her mouth pressed into a line. You were there, Brie, every time. When I had surgery, when I couldn't drive, when I thought I wasn't going to make it, you never left. I know. And Keon? He stole money from my purse in college, lied about having a job. He told me he'd visit during my biopsy and never showed up. Brielle doesn't answer right away. But I wasn't perfect either, Lynette adds, almost in a whisper. Brielle glances at her. What do you mean? Lynette wipes her hand across her forehead, tired. I didn't listen to him when he was young. He was quiet, but I should have seen something was wrong. I thought he was fine. I thought silence meant peace. At his job site, Keon is distracted. He drops a box of tiles, swears too loud, snaps at a coworker who asks a simple question. You good, man? Someone says. Keon rubs his eyes. Yeah, just tired. But he's not just tired. He's burning. All the anger he's swallowed for years is close to the surface now. He's mad at Lynette, at Brielle, at himself. He's mad at how things turned out. That night, he looks through old notebooks and emails, searching for anything, but it all looks ordinary, until he finds an envelope tucked in a drawer, addressed to a law office but unopened. He doesn't open it. Not yet. He just stares at it, hands shaking. Back at Lynette's house, she digs out more old VHS tapes. She watches them alone, the room quiet, except for the soft hum of the television. There's a video of a birthday party when Keon was 9. Brielle's in the middle of the screen, blowing out candles. Keon's off to the side, smiling, clapping, but never the focus. Another clip, Brielle winning a school award, Lynette crying and hugging her, Keon behind the camera saying, "Good job." No one turns the camera on him. She puts in one last tape. It's a random day in the backyard. Keon's playing with a toy truck, alone. He says something small, a joke maybe. She can't even make out the words, but she hears his little voice. No one responds. The camera pans away. Lynette turns off the TV and sits in silence, hands folded in her lap. Maybe he wasn't always angry. Maybe he was just quiet too long. She picks up the phone but doesn't call. What would she even say? Across town, Keon stares at the envelope again, then finally tears it open. It's just a receipt from the lawyer's office. No big details. Just a note. Final version signed and filed. Keon leans back in the chair, the paper in his lap, wondering what final really means. Maybe everything's already been decided, and maybe, just maybe, there's no undoing it. Lynette suffers a sudden heart attack and is hospitalized. The children rush to her side. The hospital smells like antiseptic and fear. Brielle arrives first, calm but pale, holding her mother's phone in one hand. Keon shows up minutes later, breathless and tense, his eyes darting toward the ICU doors like he's trying to read through them. Is she awake? He asks. Brielle shakes her head. They sedated her. She was in pain. Keon doesn't sit. He stands in the corner, arms crossed, watching the machines beep. His jaw is tight. He doesn't cry. But when the nurse comes in the next morning with tired eyes and a soft voice, everything inside him breaks. She didn't make it through the night, she says. No one speaks. The air feels heavy. Brielle closes her eyes, and Keon just stares at the floor like the news didn't land properly. like it hasn't hit yet. Not really. The funeral is quiet, simple, just like Lynette would have wanted. A few friends, neighbors, some old church members. Brielle handles most of the details. Keon helps, but only where she lets him. A week later, they meet at the lawyer's office. Neither says much. The air between them is stiff. The lawyer, an older man with a slow voice, welcomes them and reads the will. To Brielle Carver, I leave the house. No surprise there. Brielle nods slightly, her hands folded in her lap. To Keon Carver, I leave the savings account, totaling $120,000. The room goes quiet. Keon blinks, confused. He looks at the lawyer, then at Brielle. There's also a letter, the lawyer adds, pulling out a sealed envelope. For Keon. He hands it over. Keon doesn't move at first, then he takes it slowly, like it might fall apart in his hands. He opens it with shaky fingers. The handwriting is familiar, careful, slanted to the right. My sweet boy, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and I'm sorry. I wanted to say this while I was still here, but I didn't know how. I know you thought I loved Brielle more. Maybe sometimes I acted like I did. She was here more, louder, easier to understand. But I want you to know something I never told you. I saved every cent for you, because I was afraid that you'd fall, that you'd be alone, that I wouldn't be there to catch you. I gave Brielle my love in actions. I gave you my love in fear. I was always thinking of you, even when it didn't look like it. I didn't know how to show love the way you needed it. And I'm sorry. Please don't carry this pain forever. Love, Mum. Keon finishes reading and covers his face with both hands. His shoulders shake. He doesn't try to stop it. Brielle reaches over and puts her hand on his arm. He doesn't pull away. The silence between them this time is different. Not cold, not angry, just full. Keon takes time off work and starts visiting the house more often. He doesn't move in. It's Brielle's now. But there's something comforting about being there. The walls feel familiar. The silence doesn't sting as much. At first, he doesn't say much. He just shows up with a tool bag, quietly fixing things. A loose door handle, the porch light that flickers, the wobbly kitchen chair that Lynette used to complain about, but never replaced. Brielle watches from the hallway sometimes, unsure of what to say. She doesn't stop him. One day, she leaves a small envelope on the table with a spare house key inside. No note, just the key. When Keon sees it, he doesn't say anything either, but he puts it on his keychain. That's their way. Slow, quiet steps toward each other. They visit their mother's grave together the first time on a warm Saturday morning. The air smells like cut grass and flowers. Brielle brings daisies. Keon doesn't bring anything, but he kneels beside the headstone and whispers something no one hears. They don't talk much on the way back to the house, but it's not an awkward silence. It's soft, like they're both figuring out how to speak without hurting. With the money Lynette left him, Keon pays off his debts first. He clears the rent he owed, the credit card he had hidden from everyone, even the loan he took from a cousin 3 years ago. Then, after a few weeks of thinking, he signs up for trade school. Electrical work. He likes building things with his hands, fixing what's broken. It feels right. He tells Brielle one evening while sitting on the porch. Classes start next month, he says, looking out at the street. That's good, she says. I'm proud of you. He nods. It's quiet again, but not empty. Later that week, Brielle calls him just to talk. Not about bills or errands, just to talk. He almost doesn't answer, but then he does. They laugh about an old neighbor who used to yell at squirrels. Then they talk about the garden Lynette never finished, about maybe planting something new this year. They still don't agree on everything. Sometimes they argue, sometimes the past creeps in, but the weight between them is lighter now. The words come easier. The space between their voices doesn't feel like a war zone anymore. Keon starts showing up with groceries. Brielle makes extra dinner and packs some for him to take home. Neither says thank you. They don't have to. Something is healing, even if it's slow. Something is finally starting to feel like peace. Months later, Brielle finds a small box in Lynette's drawer labeled For Keon. It's tucked under old receipts and birthday cards, almost hidden like it wasn't meant to be found right away. She opens it slowly, her hands trembling just a little. Inside is a duplicate car key, the same model she drives now, the one their mother gave her. Beside the key is a folded note in Lynette's handwriting. It was meant to be shared. I just never figured out how. Brielle sits on the edge of the bed, staring at the word. She doesn't cry, but her throat tightened. The gift that had once caused so much pain now felt like one last try at connection. That evening, she drives over to Keons' place. The car hums softly in the driveway as she steps out and walks up to his door. He answers, surprised to see her, wiping grease from his hands with an old rag. She doesn't say anything, just holds out the key. Keon looks at it. For a second, he doesn't move. His eyes shift from the key to her face, then back again. There's confusion, then something softer, something like understanding. He doesn't take it. Instead, he gives a faint smile and nods. Once. Brielle doesn't force it. They end up walking down the sidewalk together. No real plan, just side by side. The car sits quietly behind them, untouched, like it knows its time will come. Their steps are slow, not heavy, but not light either. The kind of walk you take when things still hurt, but not as much as before. They don't talk much. They don't have to. Something between them has shifted. Not perfect, not whole, but healing. The silence, once sharp and painful, now feels like space. Space to breathe. Space to begin again. Hey bestie, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed the story. Check out the end screen videos for more emotional and powerful family dramas. And as always, see you in the next one. Take care.